Hi folks, Joseph Kursky here with you to talk about how do you share the URL for a web map or a web mapping application in the ArcGIS system or platform. Well, it's actually pretty straightforward and pretty easy to do. So let's talk about how to do that. I've got a web map in here, and I'm going to go ahead and look at Sentinel-2 satellite imagery, and I'm going to add a couple of things to this map. I'm going to add a bookmark just for the sake of showing, okay, let's add a bookmark here and let's call that my Kilauea area. So now that I've added that, I've got a little blue dot next to my sharing button that says, okay, you've made some changes to this web map. Now you need to save that again. And so now I've got this updated version of this web map inside my, in this case, my community college ArcGIS Online organizational account. Now I can decide who to share it with. That's an important part in all GIS work. I'm going to share it with the organization, which is the community college where I'm working right now. I also have a group, so I can look at the group here and look at, oh, okay, I want to share it with the GIS students from this semester's iteration of this course. So I've got that checked, so I'm going to be sharing it with the organization and the group. Okay, so I've shared it, and other people now in the organization and in that group can look at it. But coming back to our URL that we want to share is, for example, right here. It is this long URL right here. I'm going to add a little bit of additional information that might help you in the future, in your future work with GIS, but for right now, let's keep it to that. Then if I go to another place, here is the URL of my web map for Kilauea as a test. Okay, so web map. Copied that to the clipboard, and then I'm just going to paste it in there or in another place inside our learning management system. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and publish that. Then I can go to that course home, and in this case, here's the URL for the map I just put in there as a news item, but you're going to put it in probably the Dropbox or someplace like that. If I click on there, I'm going to get that map as I saved it. Let's just check and make sure that bookmark is in there. I'm going to go to bookmarks, and there's my Kilauea bookmark. So I know it's the latest iteration of the map. Same goes for the URL for a web mapping application, like a story map, a dashboard, something like that, an instant app. You're just sharing the URL of the map. Now, this URL has hack.maps.arcgis.com as the URL. That's the organization name. It's the organizational name for that web mapping application or that web map. That's good if you're inside that organizational account. Remember, I'm only sharing it with my organization. So if I shared this URL with someone from outside that organization, they're going to get a, hey, you need to log in to that particular org, and they probably don't have a login to that particular org. So the way to make this more generic is sharing it with everyone, and then see all of these web mapping applications have a long alphanumeric map identification or map ID on it. So to make it generic, I would take off hack.maps.arcgis.com and I'd replace it with www.arcgis.com with the whole rest. So take off the organizational name .maps and replace that with www. Now this is not going to work if I'm outside the organization because I've made it a sort of a generic ArcGIS Online, but I am signed in to a certain tab, and notice that it opens because I'm in this tab and I'm logged in. But if I open this in a incognito window, let's just go ahead and do that, or in a different browser where I'm not signed in, I'm just going to go ahead and put this URL here. It's not going to open because I'm not signed in to that org. It's going to give me a sign in. So if you're sharing it with everyone, you can use this generic, make it generic so that I can test it so everyone will be able to look at it. But that's only if you're sharing it with everyone. So back on our, so that might be helpful if you're wanting to test to make sure other people will be able to look at your web maps and your web mapping application. But for the purpose of this course, you're just basically highlighting the URL there, copying it, pasting it into the learning management system, and that's all you need to do. But you do need to share it with the organization, and you need to share it with the group inside that organization, and then you need to copy that whole URL. Hope that makes sense. I hope that's helpful. Thanks for mapping, and we'll see you in the course.